Good morning, students. Today we are having the class on sampling. This term you may have heard many times, sampling, isn't it? In your lifetime also. So, what do you mean by sampling? Or what do you mean by a sample? Whenever we mention a term called sample, it means that there is some big thing. From that, we are selecting a small one. Understood? So, usually I mention a typical example of sampling before any of my class. The typical example is you may have seen how your mother cooks rice. The pot is there, in that rice is there. She will check how the rice is cooked. Have you noticed both boys and girls how she will check it? With a spoon, she will take some rice and then she will press it and she will check whether this rice is cooked or not. What she is doing, that is what the one that is she's doing is what we call as sampling, because from a big pot, the rice that is there in that big pot, she is selecting only some grains of rice from that, and then she is checking the one that she selected is what we call as sample, and the whole pot of rice that is there is what we call as population. So whenever we are mentioning about a sample, always there is a population, there should be a population. From that population only we will select a sample. So this is what the method of sampling is. So what is sample? Sample is what we call as a representative part of the population, and the process of selecting this sample from that population is what we call as sampling. So sampling is always mentioned as a process. It's a process of selecting a representative unit of a population for the study. Why it is so called as representative? From that pot of rice, it should be rice only. Understood? So that rice which she is selecting, the mother is selecting from that pot of rice, she is selecting rice only. So that rice that she is selecting in that spoon is representing that population, the whole population of that rice that is there in the pot. So this is what you mean by representation. That sample which we are selecting should represent the population. Now, so that is sampling is smaller part of the population selected in such a way that the individual in the sample represent the characteristics of the population. Whatever way we are selecting the sample, whatever thing we are selecting from that population, but that small unit should represent that big unit. That means that sample should represent that population. So now you understood that whenever we are selecting a sample, there need to have a population. So what is that? What do you mean by that population? A population is an aggregate of elements showing some common set of criteria. Now, so the population is the total group of individual people or things meeting the designation criteria of interest to the researcher from the sample is selected. So in that way, we can tell that there are two types of population. Which is the two type of population? The first population is what we call as target population, and the second population is what we call as accessible population. Now, what do you mean by target population? For example, for that we can assume one study. If I want to do one study of how this lockdown time is enjoyed by the medical students throughout Kerala, that is my study. But it is very difficult for me to go to all medical colleges or to contact all medical students in all medical colleges throughout Kerala and find. So what will I do? I will ask the medical students that is there in our medical college. Then I will make some tool for collecting the data, and then I will do the study. So what is my topic? To find how the lockdown period are used, or how they are utilizing the lockdown period by medical students throughout Kerala. So the whole medical students of Kerala is what we call as the target population. Now, which is the accessible population? The medical students in our medical college is what we call as accessible population. Why it is so called as accessible? From the word itself it is clear. Accessible means the population which I am having access to. That is what you mean by accessible population. So the target population refers to the population that the researcher wishes to study. I need to study about the whole population throughout Kerala, medical students throughout Kerala, but it's difficult for me. So what will I do? I will stick on to that population which I am having access to. So that is what we call as accessible population. Now, which is this accessible population? This accessible population is taken from that target population. You are also part of medical students in Kerala. Understood? So the accessible population is a subset of target population. Target population is there, accessible population is there. Now from where I will select the sample, I won't select the whole medical students in our medical college. It's very difficult again for me to contact them. I will select all those medical students, or I will select a sample from them. Understood? Only a sample of medical students will be selected from this accessible population. So there is one big population. That population is what we call as target population. Subset of that is what we call as accessible population. From that accessible population, I will select a sample. Understood? So the sample is also subset of accessible population, which in turn is a subset of target population. So accessible population is what is the portion of target population to which the researcher has reasonable access to. So these are the two types of population. Now what will I do? Once the sample is there with me, I will ask each of you that how you have utilized your lockdown period, lockdown situations, and then once the result is there in my hand, I will go and generalize to this result to the whole medical students of Kerala, telling that, see, this is the in this sample our medical students have done these all things. So probably this will be the one that has been done by all medical students throughout Kerala. Understood? So whichever result we are getting from that sample, we are generalizing the result of that sample to that of the target population. So this is the use of sampling. You may have wondered that why you need to study sampling. I used to mention that medical student is always a researcher. He, in his daily life, he will do one or other research in his daily life. Understood? So when you go for research, this sampling is very crucial thing which you need to have, which you will use in your daily life. So that is why you need to have a thorough knowledge on sampling. So sample is there, process of selecting the sample from that population is there. Now populations are of two types, target population and accessible population. From that accessible population you will select a sample. The result of that sample will be generalized not only to that accessible population but to that of target population with the help of what? With the help of statistics, with the help of inferential statistics. There you will have the term called inference again. Now why this sample is important for a researcher? Why can't we use the whole population? Again, there are difficulties for using that whole population. The first and foremost thing is that sampling reduces time and cost of research studies. When we select even in this study itself, if I select all medical students in our medical college itself, again I want to prepare the whole questionnaire, I want to take it print, or I want to send it through mail, everything is having huge cost. Instead of that, I will select a sample of say 100 or 200 students. So it saves labor. The quality of the study is often better with sampling than with a complete coverage. Rather than going for a huge study, rather than going for a huge population, if we will select a sample by some scientific method and do a study in that sample, it will be more effective than selecting the whole unit of the population. It provides much quicker result than does a census. You may know that what is a census. Census, in our health information class, when you were there in the college, I taught you what is census data. Understood? Census is happening once in 10 years. In India, and a complete enumeration of the population is what we are doing in census data, but that is not we are doing in sampling. Provides much quicker results. Census, when we analyze the data, when we come to the conclusion of the data, it takes time. It takes more than 4 or 5 years there. So that is the drawback of census data. So it is the only sampling is the only procedure possible if the population is infinite. Understood? So these are the uses of sampling. And we are having one more term in sampling where what we call as sampling criteria. Sampling criteria means you need to have a set of criteria of how you will include or exclude subjects in the accessible population so that you can select them or you can exclude them. So this is what we call as sampling criteria. Inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria is there. So this is the introduction part of sampling. Thank you.